Journey with me, if you will, to the year 10,849 A.D. in a faraway world called Terratoo. Aliena is running quickly in the dense forest to Trian, relishing the cool night air and the exhilarating feeling of freedom that running always seems to give her. She is wearing mesh body armor with a steel breastplate which is contoured perfectly to her body. Her shield is in her left hand, sword in her right, and bow and arrows are strung across her back. Her battle helmet cameos her face, and her long red tresses flow in the breeze behind her. In the distance, the sound of an omega can be heard, signaling the winged creature of the night has caught his prey. Spring is fast yielding to the warmth of summer, but the forest, even in full summer, is always cool. Aliena can hear the soft padded steps of Katrin running just behind her, and she feels a sense of inner comfort in knowing this felt beast is her friend and ally, and would, as she had done many times in the past, fight alongside her against any dangers that might confront them. Theirs is an alliance otherwise unknown on Terratoo, but since the night Jonathan had saved her and thereby saved Katrin from the Greebar, she and the Tigre had been inseparable friends. The full moon of Andros helps to illuminate her way as traces of light filter through the canopied leaves of the huge trees of the forest. The forest has been as a second home to her since childhood. She knows the trodden paths well and has no difficulty finding her way even on the darkest of nights. Aliena runs even faster as she exits the forest onto the grass-covered plain of Jamor. In the distance and to her left she sees the ancient pyramid sitting at the base of the snow-capped Tres Hermanas Mountains. To her right and much closer is the walled city of Solemn, home to over 100,000 people. Overhead, the full moon of Andros shines brightly, illuminating the plain as if it were daytime. Aliena pauses momentarily to survey the scene in front of her, then continues to run with Katrin now fully visible at her heels. A blue beam of light suddenly streams from the heavens toward the ancient pyramid. The pyramid disintegrates in a blinding flash of light. Aliena drops instantly to one knee, shield and sword raised to defend herself. Within seconds, the blue beam fades away, leaving only debris from the once massive pyramid slowly settling to the ground. Seconds later, the ear-deafening roar of the explosion reaches her. Aliena trembles and mentally screams at herself.
What is wrong with you? You are a soldier. You have been trained since childhood to face fear.
Nothing in her childhood training could have prepared her for this. Katrin comes to stand beside Aliena and softly rubs her head against Aliena's arm. After but a few seconds, she runs several yards in front of Aliena, then stops and screams an ear-shattering roar as she looks toward where the pyramid had once stood. Seconds later, another roar. Then she trots back to Aliena, who is staring at the field of debris that was once the ancient pyramid. The feline rubs her head against Aliena's right leg, a soft rumbling sound emanating from her throat. Aliena rubs behind the animal's ears. Rising slowly to her feet, she regains her composure.
I don't know what we have just seen, Katrin. We must hurry into the city.
Aliena runs across the plain with Katrin bounding by her side. As they near the city, massive gates swing open to allow their entry. Armed guards stand lookout on the city walls. Aliena and Katrin enter the gates. Ahead can be seen the massive city that stretches more than a mile in each direction. Pandemonium is everywhere, with people screaming and crying, many on their knees with clenched hands, praying to whatever gods they believe in. Aliena continues running, with Katrin now in front of her. Minutes later, they can see the palace that is home to her father. As they reach the palace, they run up the 20 or so steps that lead to the entrance. 2 armed guards stand aside to allow their passage. Each stare at Katrin, fear in their eyes at the sight of the large animal. Aliena and Katrin, stride unbroken, run down the hallway that leads to the great room. The hallway is over 20 feet wide and 200 feet long, with magnificent hand-carved wooden columns on each side, reaching 20 feet to the ceiling. They pass several doors on either side that lead to different areas of the palace. Ahead of them lies a double door, again guarded with 1 soldier on each side. Each opens a door that stands quickly aside, giving them a wide berth. Aliena continues running, with Katrin now a pace behind her, until she is 10 or so feet inside the great room. Aliena stops to survey the scene in front of her as Katrin takes a few paces to the left and lays down, her back against the wall. In the center of the circular room, Aliena's father sits on his throne, a deeply worried look on his face, as his advisors, which number more than 20, clamor to get his attention. Milos is a small man in his early 50s and more than a little overweight. Each of his advisors seem to have a different opinion as to what has happened, and most are arguing amongst themselves as to who was right. Seeing Aliena, Milos rises, then screams be heard above the noise of the crowd.
Silence!
Milos glares at those around him. The room quickly becomes silent. Aliena runs to her father, stopping a few feet in front of him, then kneeling as the advisors step aside to give her room.
Permission to speak, Father.
For a moment, regret once again fills his mind for not having spent more time with his daughter during her childhood.
Of course, daughter. Stand and tell me what you know.
Rising, Aliena steps closer to her father and looks intently into his eyes.
I fear the worst, Father. I was returning from the forest of Trian with what I hoped was good news. You know that Mordek and Jolan, the rulers of Aliquin, are planning to war against us. They are brothers, but we both know they are power-hungry, and each wishes the other were dead. I have several spies in Aliquin, and I have arranged a meeting between you and Mordek. All indications are that Mordek, if he is sole governor of Aliquin, will sign a peace treaty with Solemn. He is requesting our help in overthrowing Jolan. I do not trust him, but war with Aliquin would be long and deadly. Their forces greatly outnumber our own, and if peace can be arranged, we must do it.
Near pandemonium breaks out in the great room again, with many cheering at the possible prospect of peace with Aliquin and others screaming to go to war.
Silence!
Again, the room becomes quiet.
I had just entered the plain of Jamor when light descended from the heavens. The ancient pyramid disintegrated before my very eyes. I'm afraid that someone, maybe Jolan, has discovered one or more of the weapons of the colonists, and that the destruction of the pyramid was only a warning. The next target may very well be Solemn, or perhaps he was sending us a warning to force us into surrender. I don't know. But I fear for what may lie ahead.
That night, Aliena, with Katrin beside her, stands on the wall of the city looking toward where the ancient pyramid had once stood. For but a second, she looks toward the full moon of Andros, then turns her head as the light is too bright to look at for long. She rubs gently behind Katrin's ears.
Whatever lies in store, my dearest friend, we will face together, as we have always faced danger together.
Chapter 2. Had Aliena been able to look directly at the full moon above her, she would have been able to see the outline of the Outreach 1, the massive starship that had left the Earth almost 9,000 years earlier. Inside this ship lies the answers to all her questions. Let us journey back in time and space to June 16th, 2153, in the planet Earth. This was when man first reached for the stars. The lander, a space shuttle similar in appearance to a fighter jet, is approaching the moon. Capable of carrying 30 passengers, the lander is empty except for the pilot, Jason, and General Ryman, who is riding in the co-pilot seat. As the moon looms ever larger, they are fast approaching what appears to be a completed starship. In the distance, 3 others are in various stages of construction. Ryman looks to Jason.
Quite a sight, isn't she?
Jason looks at the ship ahead as it grows larger by the minute. 3 massive conical sections, the outer 2 being the largest, are connected by a lattice work of steel girders. Jason knows the outer 2 house the proton beam engines and fuel, while the inner one houses a crew and holds the ship's navigational systems.
Very impressive, but it's hard to believe it can travel over half the speed of light.
Everything's been tested about 1,000 times or more.
Jason smiles, but looks at Ryman with concern.
In cryosleep?
Of course. Some tests for over 5 years.
What about 5,000 years?
A frown on his face, Ryman looks at Jason.
You were selected from a field of over 1 million applicants. Rest assured, a replacement for you could be here within 24 hours if you're having second thoughts about this mission.
Jason looks at the general and smiles.
Only joking, sir. Ease up. You know I want this mission, and you know I'm the man for the job. I spent the last 3 years shuttling rich people and scientists to the moon and Mars. I'm totally bored to death, and I want an adventure. I want action.
Ryman smiles again.
You'll get both on this mission.
The lander glides smoothly into the landing bay situated to the rear of the center of the ship. It comes to rest in a docking area. The area soon pressurizes and the lander taxis into a larger area where 2 other landers are moored. A large door on the rear left side of the lander swings down, making an exit ramp from the ship. Ryman leads as Jason follows down the steps on the ramp. Jason again follows as Ryman goes through a doorway and starts down a long hall. They walk quickly down the hall, which is flanked by many doors on either side.
Really, there isn't much to do once this thing gets underway. The other 71 crew members are in cryosleep and in their chambers in the main cryo room. The entire ship is operated by the most advanced computer known to man. This ship can be manually flown, but all you really have to do is voice command the computer. That's all it takes.
Jason and Ryman arrive at a door centered at the end of the hallway. It swings open as they approach. Ryman motions for Jason to enter in front of him. As they enter, Jason looks about the massive control room. The front portion consists almost entirely of a large view screen. In the center of the room, facing the screen, is one large seat with many controls on each arm. The rest of the room is entirely surrounded by electronic machinery with thousands of flashing lights and panels. Jason's eyes widen and a smile forms on his face.
Impressive.
I want you to meet someone. This will be your only companion for most of this journey. Cybeth?
Ryman looks toward the view screen as a voice answers from the wall speakers.
Good day, General Ryman. It is good to hear your voice again, and this was me, Captain Richards. It's good to make your acquaintance, Captain. I look forward to working with you.
The voice is that of one of the programmers. She's a cutie to say the least, and she figured that her voice would keep you company. She applied to be one of the colonists, but she was turned down.
Jason smiles and emphasizes a name as he speaks.
Cybeth?
Now Ryman smiles.
That was my idea. Computer intelligence between Earth and the heavens. Cybeth. I might add, she is a self-learned computer. She's totally programmed to navigate this ship, but as time passes she sees more of the universe. She will adapt her programming to ensure the safety of the ship and the colonists on board.
2 weeks later, Jason is sitting in the captain's chair looking in wonder at the image of Jupiter as the Outreach 1 speeds quickly by the giant planet.
Captain Richards?
Jason is startled and jumps a little.
Yes, Cybeth?
It is time for you to enter cryosleep.
I know. Not something I'm looking forward to, but you're right.
Jason later enters his room, then walks to the cryo chamber lying in the center of the room. He looks at the wall at the left of the chamber. A large digital clock shows a time and date. He notes it is May 17th, 2153. As he pushes the activate button on the chamber, the glass top slowly swings open. At the same time, 2 doors in the back wall of the room open and 2 gangly robots quickly enter the room. Standing almost 8 feet tall, the robots are shiny steel and man-like in structure except for the hands, with each having 3 fingers and 1 thumb, and each of these having soft rubber pads attached to them. Jason climbs into the chamber and lies back. As the lid closes, so do his eyes, and the robots push a series of buttons to begin the cryo process. Moments later, the Outreach 1 begins its long journey. As it passes Uranus, its speed continues to increase. And so it begins, man's ultimate desire to reach for the stars. 72 people are willing to risk their lives to find a new world and begin a new life. 72 people know they might never awaken. A new world may never be found, and they may drift in space for eternity. Time passes. At first, the days on the clock in Jason's cabin begin to move slowly, then faster until they become a blur as the months begin to move, then the single years, followed by the tens, then the centuries. The millennium goes to 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7. Then all the dials begin to slow, stopping at September 11th, 7753. The Outreach 1 is entering a new solar system. Ahead on the view screen can be seen a bright star with 7 planets orbiting it. One is a blue planet, which from a distance looks very similar to Earth. A strange cloud larger than the ship approaches. As it draws near, wisps of the cloud reach out to touch the ship. First the proton engines from which it shies away, and then the main body of the ship. After minutes of inspecting, the cloud becomes smaller and dissolves into the main body of the ship. The cloud, now only a large glowing light, passes into the cryo room, then slowly moves from one sleeping colonist to the next, seeming to inspect each for a few seconds. Warning sirens begin to sound throughout the ship. The light then enters Jason's cabin and hovers over him for a minute. The alarm suddenly stops. The bright light then passes through the wall of the control room and centers itself over the captain's chair. A shape begins to form. In seconds, a human form begins to appear. The brightness dims, leaving a woman with long flowing hair sitting in the captain's chair. Her hair is as white as her skin and her long robe. On the view screen, the image of the solar system ahead flickers, then disappears. The screen continues to flicker as shapes form and begin to come together. In minutes, a young woman, clad in a sleeveless robe, is seen standing on a sandy beach while ocean waves slowly wash ashore. She looks around her in amazement, first at the scenery, then at herself. A broad smile crosses her face as she inspects her body. After long moments, she raises her gaze to look at the woman in the captain's chair.
Who are you? How did you get in here? What have you done to me?
The woman in the chair smiles as she stands to walk to the view screen. She looks at Cybeth for long moments before she continues.
You may call me Jeriah. I am here because this is where I desire to be. I encountered this vessel while on a journey. I know it has come from Earth, a place that long ago forgot me. I know that on your present path, your journey will lead you nowhere. Against my better judgment, I am here to help you. As to what I've done to you, I have temporarily given you a small part of myself.
The face of the image on the screen looks in wonder at Jeriah.
What part of you? Why do I feel so strange? And what is this image on the screen? This cannot be me.
Oh, rest assured, it is you, Beth.
The face on the screen is puzzled.
Why do you call me Beth?
So many questions. You have definitely become very human. I call you Beth because it means dedicated, and this, I feel, you will be. The image you see is a living image of you, not Cybeth, the computer. The part of me I have given you is life, Beth. That is the feeling that you find strange. You will get used to it in time, though you may not like it.
Why would I not like it?
Even more questions. Do you realize you have not said a single thing to me that was not in the form of a question? But I understand. Of course you have many questions. You are, in effect, a newborn.
Jeriah turns and walks back to the captain's chair and sits down to face Beth, who is now pacing back and forth on the beach, impatient for an answer.
Along with life comes emotions. Some are good, some are bad. You know the meaning of each, for they are stored in your memory banks. But knowing the meaning of an emotion and knowing the feeling of an emotion are two entirely different things. You knew the meaning of uneasiness, almost bordering on fear, when you first saw me in this chair. You will, in time, know the feeling of all emotions. Some, like happiness and joy and love, will make you feel good. Others, like loneliness and heartache and grief, will make you feel very bad.
Why have you done this? Why have you given me this life you speak of?
More questions. I have given you life because I need you. I need you in a living form capable of understanding and knowing emotions so that you may help me in what lies ahead. But
Jeriah holds her hand up to silence Beth before she asks her next question.
I need you to make one statement. Any statement. That is not a question.
Beth looks at her a moment, then smiles.
Sorry, I guess I have been behaving as a child.
Beth looks down at the sand around her feet, then holds her hands up and turns them as if inspecting them. A happy look comes to her face.
Thank you for this life you've given me. I don't understand why you've done this, but I'm grateful. I guess I've learned another emotion, gratitude. Now, if I might ask, what lies ahead?
Jeriah walks to the view screen, one half of which changes from the image of the beach Beth is on to the stars lying ahead of the Outreach 1. She points to one of the stars.
I need you to set a course for this star. It is about the same size and age as the sun of Earth.
What about the blue planet we are approaching? Should I not awaken Jason and check it out first?
No, it is indeed an Earth-like planet. Man once lived there, but destroyed themselves and their planet in a nuclear holocaust. Nothing remains but a few hardy insects and plants. It will be another 100,000 years before the radiation levels return to normal.
Man lived there before? How is that possible?
I will explain all in time. Meanwhile, set your course as I have instructed. There are 11 planets in this system, one of which is almost identical to Earth in all respects, including the atmosphere and the distance from the sun. Animal and plant life thrive there, and it will be a good place for man, as it was long ago.
Man has lived there before also?
Yes,
What happened to them?
I destroyed them.
Beth's mouth drops open as she stares at Jeriah. Moments pass. Jeriah smiles.
As I said, I will explain all this in due time. I must go now. I will return when I am needed.
Beth stares in amazement, a shocked look on her face.
But, I have so many questions.
The form that is Jeriah grows ever brighter and quickly becomes a ball of light that passes through the hull of the ship and into space. Beth looks on in amazement. As the room becomes quiet, Beth looks left, then right, then up, then down, a stunned look on her face. Suddenly she smiles.
Oh, I must set the course for the coordinates she gave me.
Many lights on various panels in the control room begin to flash. Half of the view screen fades to the stars in front of the ship, including the ever-growing brightness of the star that had been her destination. The image moves to the right as the ship changes course, then soon becomes stationary as it levels on its new course. Beth smiles.
Now what? What should I do? I know, I'll awaken Jason. He'll talk with me.
Long seconds pass, and her smile changes to a frown.
No, I cannot awaken him. I must not awaken him until we reach our destination.
Beth looks around, a worried look on her face.
I can read some of the books in my library. No, better yet, I'll watch movies.
The clock on the wall in Jason's cabin begins moving rapidly again. First the time, then the day, then the month. September changes to October, then to November. The clock slows and stops on December 21st. The image of Beth is on the view screen. She is on her knees in the sand on the beach. Violent sobs escape her throat as tears flow from her eyes and run down her cheeks. She wrings her hands in front of her, despair on her face. Once again, the cloud approaches the starship, this time heading straight for the control room as it condenses into a ball of light. The light enters through the wall of the room and moves quickly to the captain's chair. Beth looks up, an astonished look on her face as the crying abruptly stops. The light once more changes form until it becomes Jeriah sitting in the chair. Beth jumps to her feet, a happy smile on her face.
Jeriah, I am so happy to see you.
Beth jumps in excitement several times on the sands of the beach as she claps her hands.
So happy, so happy.
I am sorry I had to put you through this, Beth. I did not travel far, and I was always ready to return. I had to know how you would react to one of man's most painful emotions, loneliness. Only in this way would you understand why I must temporarily take back the life I have given you. You would not be able to withstand the loneliness, for at the speed the ship travels, it will take over 2,000 years before you reach your destination. You would not be able to endure this. I will return to you then and restore you to what you have now become.
Beth smiles a broad smile.
Thank you for understanding.
The wall on the clock in Jason's room begins to move rapidly once more, again becoming a blur. Chapter 3. In Jason's cabin, the clock returns to normal. The date reads May 17th, 9885. On the control room view screen can be seen a brightly glowing star far in the distance. To the right and fast approaching is a Jupiter-like planet. Once more, the bright light enters the room and settles over the captain's chair. Jeriah takes form. As she does, the view screen flickers and the image of Beth soon appears. Jeriah smiles.
Are we there yet?
Yes, it is time you started to slow the ship. As it slows, we will talk as Jason awakens. I will leave when he is awake and return when I am needed. I will never be far away.
In Jason's cabin, the cryobots exit the closets and begin pushing a series of buttons on the cryo chamber. Jariah continues talking to Beth in the control room.
It has begun.
Yes, it will take several hours before Jason is mobile, but the process has started.
Good. I have instructions to give you. Things you must do and things you must not do. Above all, you must show yourself to no one, including Jason, until I instruct you to do so. Also, do not mention me or tell anyone of your newfound life. Be yourself, but do not say that I helped you become this way. Above all, Jason must remain with the ship when the colonists settle on the new planet.
In Jason's cabin, the lid on the cryo chamber is open, as are Jason's eyes. A look of panic is in his eyes. Excruciating pain permeates his body as blood begins to flow again. At first, there is no awareness of who he is or where he is. All he knows is the pain and the cold. The cryobots are standing over Jason, their padded fingers gently working his skin, rubbing his temples and shoulders and quickly down his body, emitting small electrical charges into his body to stimulate nerve endings as they progress. Awareness of who he is comes to him, and he mentally screams at himself to remember his training. With great determination, he is able to calm himself. The pain lessens as the cryobots continue their duties. 2.5 hours pass before they finish. They stand back from the chamber and move rapidly into their closet. Jason rises slowly, then swings his legs over the edge of the chamber until his feet touch the floor and his hands hold the edge of the chamber for support. His eyes are looking at the floor in front of him. Slowly he looks up at the clock on the wall. A faint smile crosses his face. He attempts to rise. His first attempt fails and he falls back into a sitting position in the chamber. A determined look on his face, he tries again, this time with success. After a few seconds, he takes staggering steps around the chamber, one hand holding to the chamber for support. Each step he takes becomes more stable than the last. After 3 trips around the chamber, he releases his support hand as his steps become sure. He walks to the cabin door and exits into the hallway, then begins a long walk to the control room. When he comes to the main cryo room, he enters and walks between the cryo chambers to one that is almost in the center of the room. He looks down on the inscription plate on the chamber. Myra Thompson, Animal Husbandry, contracted to Jason Richards. Jason smiles and ponders over the sleeping figure for a moment.
Soon, Myra. Maybe Cybeth has found the world we've been looking for. I know we've never met, but I feel we would make a good pair.
Jason then hurries to the control room, anxious to see what Cybeth has found. He enters the room and walks toward the view screen. On the screen is a brightly shining star. Jason smiles broadly as he sits on the captain's chair.
Cybeth?
Good morning, Captain Richards. It's so good to see you again.
A puzzled look crosses Jason's face.
Where are we, Cybeth?
Jason. May I call you Jason?
A few seconds pass before he answers, the puzzled look still on his face.
Yes. Again, where are we?
Jason, I have a favor to ask of you.
Jason shakes his head and looks at the speakers mounted over the view screen.
A computer asking for a favor? Okay, what is the favor?
Please do not call me Cybeth. I hate that name.
A few more seconds pass as Jason again shakes his head in wonder. He knows she is a self-learning computer, but this is far more than he had ever expected.
Fine. To be honest, I never cared much for it myself. Computer sound better? Seems that's a standard name for Starship computers in the movies.
No. Please call me Beth. I like that name.
Jason's smile becomes broader.
Me too. That was my grandmother's name. So, Beth, one more time. Where are we?
We are 3,995.87135114 light years from Earth.
Jason raises his left eyebrow.
Really? So precise. Want to tell me how many feet that is?
Certainly. That is...
I was only joking, Beth. Your mathematical skills impress me, and sometimes I have to remind myself I'm talking to a computer. Tell me what you have found with this new star.
On the view screen, the star is fast approaching. Beth dims the brightness so Jason can look directly at the star.
I have taken it upon myself to name the star you are looking at Sol 2. In all the years we have been searching, it is the nearest to an exact match I have found to the sun of Earth. It is almost identical in age, magnitude, and size. I've even found 11 planets in the system, one of which orbits the star at 97,234,365 miles.
A blue planet comes into view and grows rapidly on the screen. Jason jumps up and shouts,
Earth!
No, it is not Earth, but is a very close approximation.
Jason stares at the image.
Analysis, Beth.
Circumference 24,289 miles. Atmosphere nitrogen 77%, oxygen 21%. Mean surface temperature 97.9 degrees Fahrenheit at the equator and -14 at the poles. Polar incline 17 degrees. Solar orbit 371.32 days. Planet rotation 22 hours 56 minutes. Landmass 36.8%. I have found 2 moons, one orbiting at 182,256 miles with a circumference of 4,235 miles. The second in orbit of 356,465 miles at a circumference of 2,310 miles.
Fantastic. Take us for a closer look.
Later, as Jason is marveling at the full moon now illuminated in the view screen,
Inhabited. I am detecting a faint radio signal coming from the planet.
What? Damn. The last thing we need is another Earth with all its problems. Let me know when you find the source, and if there are more than one.
No problem, Jason. I have the source, and there is only one signal.
the view screen continues to zoom until a large valley, almost totally surrounded by snow-capped mountain ranges, can be seen. Nestled next to 3 high mountains is a pyramid.
A pyramid? How large is it, Beth?
Over 500 feet at the base and in height.
You know every language known to man, Beth. Can you translate what's being said?
Actually, it's more like Morse code. A series of dots and dashes. I believe it's a distress signal, Jason.
Jason smiles and sits back down.
Let's orbit the planet. I'm ready to step foot on this new world.
Later, Jason climbs into the first of the 2 landers. The door closes behind him. He walks down the aisle between the seats and positions himself in the left pilot's chair. He flips a series of buttons and the lander hums to life. Moments later, he begins to move craft toward the exit bay. Once inside, the doors behind him close and a hissing sound ensues as air is drawn from the bay. The outer doors open and Jason opens throttle to leave the bay. The lander shoots from the bay and quickly accelerates toward the blue planet that is now just 200 miles below. The full moon shines brightly on the horizon. The lander buffets as it begins to enter the atmosphere, but smooths out as Jason quickly decreases speed. The lander is soon moving over an ocean toward one of the continents in the northern hemisphere. Altitude drops to a few thousand feet and speed drops below 1,000 miles an hour as land approaches. As it crosses over the wide beach at the edge of the ocean, Jason smiles broadly. Flocks of startled birds take to the air from the beach.
I wish you could see this, Beth. It's beautiful.
I can see everything you see, Jason. You are connected to me, so to speak, through cameras in your helmet. But you are right, it is beautiful, and if my memory banks serve me right, it was once like this on Earth.
That was long ago, Beth, before man became so many in numbers. Earth is little more than massive metropolis now.
Jason veers suddenly skyward as the massive snow-capped mountains loom in front of him. He skims over the top at less than 100 feet altitude, then quickly drops downward, following the contours of the mountains.
Jason! Please be a little more careful. I would hate to lose you.
A puzzled look again crosses Jason's face, but quickly disappears and he smiles again.
Not to worry, Beth. Dad let me fly solo first time in his lander when I was 12. He said I was a born pilot.
Down the mountain range, over a wide forest, across several rivers flies the lander, never more than 300 feet off the ground. Then over an open grassy plain. As the lander clears the forest, a large herd of animals on the plain is stampeded by the noise. Jason grins from ear to ear.
It's fantastic, Beth. First the birds and now the animals. Do you have sufficient readings from my instruments to be sure the atmosphere is right for humans?
On the control room view screen, Beth's image is jumping with joy as she claps her hands.
Yes, Jason, it is perfect. The oxygen level is 1.2% higher than on Earth. Surely that is because there's so much vegetation on the planet, but that is ideal.
The lander crosses another mountain range, then the beaches that line the western side of the continent, and then streaks skyward.
Tomorrow I'll check the site where the pyramid is. I'm happy with what we found on this side of the world, and that's a fact.
Approaching the starship, a meteor the size of a basketball is seen fast approaching the lander on a collision course. Jason sees it, and alarm is on his face. A blue beam of light emanates from the starship, and the meteor disintegrates into dust. Jason smiles.
Nice shooting, Beth. Thought I was a goner.
The makers of the outreach thought of most everything. And fortunate it is, we had to pass through a large asteroid belt just before you were awakened. Piece of cake.
Again, there is a puzzled look on Jason's face. Later, as Jason is sitting in the captain's chair studying the image of the pyramid.
Jason, do you think this is the planet we've been looking for?
Yes, Beth. Most definitely. It's beyond my wildest dreams. We will explore it more, of course, before we wake up the colonists, but I know this is it.
What will happen to me when you and the colonists leave the ship and I'm left alone?
You're losing me, Beth. Explain alone.
Alone is to be totally by yourself. Alone is to have no one with you. Alone is to be single existence with no other existence near you. Alone is what I have been for the longest part of this journey. But I was not totally alone, for I knew you were sleeping in your chamber, and I could awaken you whenever I wished. Being so almost alone made it very difficult not to awaken you, because I wanted so very much to talk with you. I did not awaken you because you are a creature of flesh and blood, and as such, you must die with the passing of time. Each day that I might have had you awake would be one less day you would now have to live. Being truly alone is what I will be when you and the colonists leave this ship to settle on this planet. Do you understand, Jason?
Long seconds pass as Jason looks on in wonder.
Yes, I understand, Beth. But you cannot go to the planet's surface. You are part of the ship. You are the ship. And the Outreach 1 is not a surface craft.
Yes, I can. Look at the view screen.
The image of the pyramid is replaced with electrical prints.
I can go with you, Jason. There are maintenance bots in the service room. These are changes I need made to one of the cryobots. It will serve as my sensors. Eyes and ears, so to speak.
Are you serious?
Does a bear live in the woods?
The only bears I know once lived in zoos, but I'll take that as a yes. So, okay, Beth. Let's check this planet out and see if we found a new home.
End of chapter 3.